After some time, Sungwoo and his party arrive at a location after following Han Kang-sok. Han Kang-sok stops for a moment and asks Sungwoo if he's really going to take his friends along with him. He gives an advice to Sungwoo to not take them along as they can die on this quest. Hanho asks Sungwoo if it is true, and Sungwoo took him along after saying they were just going out to eat lamb cutlets. On the other hand, Ji Soo-yoon says she has heard enough, and she knows well that there's a high possibility that they might die sometime soon. But by only overcoming this ordeal, they can learn to become stronger, and their experience from this quest will give them better chances of survival in the future. Han Kang-sok says then it is fine then, and they will go to Osan using teleportation magic, and Jeon will create a teleportation point for them. Jeon is overjoyed and she introduced herself to Sungwoo's party, and Hanho greets her back. But for some reason, Jeon looks at Hanho with suspicion. Then she kicks him right in the face while saying that he smells like a bloody weakling. Jeon then flies up in the air to prepare her magic. She makes a big teleportation circle around them and a notification pops up which says that they will be teleported to a designated point. All of them disappear with a bright flash of light. In just a few seconds, they appear in Osan, which was hundreds of kilometers away from their previous location. Sungwoo and his party are amazed at the fast teleportation skill of Jeon. Sungwoo tells Han Kang-sok that Jeon is a great item, and Kang-sok replies by saying that it becomes really helpful after eating what it likes. Jeon gets angry at them once again after being called an item. Han Kang-sok tells Sungwoo and his party to go ahead towards Pyeongtaek, while he will teleport to An-sok to handle the situation there. Kang-sok hands over an earring to Sungwoo and Sungwoo asks him about its use. Han Kang-sok informs him that it is another one of Jeon's skill and they can communicate with each other in real time if he sticks this near his ear. Jeon warns Sungwoo to not take it off or it will disappear. Sungwoo equips it and he gets a notification stating that he has been connected to the Jeon communication network. Jeon and Kang-sok teleport away after wishing best of luck to Sungwoo and his party. Hanho compliments Kang-sok by saying that the #1 ranker really deserves his reputation and he badmouths his ill-mannered fairy. He further says that his righty is the best companion as compared to that moth. Sungwoo and his party ride on bone wyverns to cover the distance at a faster pace. Jeon asks them if they can hear her, and Sungwoo replies with a yes. Ji Soo-yoon points out something important below a building to their left. It turns out some survivors are being chased by hellhounds. All of a sudden, Kang-sok informs them that he forgot to inform them about something. It turned out that the armor boss just summoned a fire giant. It can throw a ball of fire, so he tells them to be careful while flying. Hanho points out toward a building with a large fireball on top of it. It turns out to be the fire giant which Han Kang-sok just warned them about. Hanho is afraid as the size of this fire giant is extra large. The fire giant pulls out a big chunk of the building with his bare hand. He then hurls it towards Sungwoo and his party after igniting it on fire. Sungwoo tells Hanho to hold on tight as it is already too late to dodge. The bone wyvern gets completely destroyed after getting hit with the fireball. Both Sungwoo and Hanho start falling and Hanho says that this is why he hates flying. Ji Soo-yoon and Righty rush toward them on their wyvern to save them. Ji Soo-yoon catches Sungwoo and pulls him up while the wyvern saves Hanho by putting him in his mouth. Ji Soo-yoon informs them that it is hard to circle around and they are going to crash. A few seconds later, the wyvern crashes into the ground and Ji Soo-yoon asks others if they are all right. The hellhounds start dashing toward the crashed players. Ji Soo-yoon gets ready to take them all on by herself. She cuts up most of them with a single slash attack, but more hellhounds rush toward them. Sungwoo gets rid of them by using his dwarven crossbow and he receives 10,550 gold for hunting a single hellhound. The Death Knight comes forward after sensing something. Death Knight says that this place is in utter chaos and he should get ready as well. Ji Soo-yoon and Righty rush toward a group of hellhounds. They start getting rid of them after slashing them to tiny pieces. Death Knight says Ji Soo-yoon and Righty have gotten stronger and it seems he also needs to work hard to get stronger from now on. Death Knight uses his chains to catch the hellhounds. He then slashes them all after pulling them together. Sungwoo tells his party members that they need to get out of here because the giant will be arriving here in very soon. Sungwoo is thinking that he can't waste his awakened state in here and he has to sparingly use his summons. The moment that fire giant takes a notice of them, all of his mid and lower rank skeletons will be goners and it will only make him waste his awakening. Sungwoo realizes that a small alley in front of them is open. He orders everyone to run toward it as fast as they can. The fire giant is standing still in his position. Sungwoo is wondering about how he can get rid of it while the giant is so strong it got rid of a wyvern in a single hit. But first, they need to get to a safe location, so Sungwoo summons his troll skeleton. It is going to be hard to find another skeleton like this, but Sungwoo still orders it to block the alley behind them. The Hellhounds breathe out fireballs. They start bombarding the troll with fireballs and it gets destroyed after some time. Sungwoo summons 2 more troll skeletons and he orders them to block the path of the Hellhounds. But all of a sudden, Sungwoo realizes a big fireball in front of them and he orders everyone to stop. This massive fireball turns out to be the fire giant. At the same time, Hanho, who was previously pretending to be unconscious, wakes up and he asks them if he can again go back to being unconscious. Sungwoo was previously thinking of saving his strength for the Hell's moving armor boss, but after seeing the fire giant he is having second thoughts. Sungwoo says that he has no other choice but to take a gamble and use it in here. All of a sudden, the fire giant reaches a bus and screams of survivors can be heard from a building behind it. Sungwoo is thinking that maybe these guys are the same players he just saved a moment ago. Inside the building, a kid is asking his dad for help. Death Knight says that he's going to save them even if Sungwoo tries to stop him. Looking at the burning building reminds Sungwoo about his past. It reminds him of the day his parents died. He was too weak back then and he was afraid as well, but the situation is completely different right now. Sungwoo screams out that he will face the fire giant by himself. Sungwoo summons the Grim Reaper Scythe and he gains the power of a lich for a certain duration, and he orders the rest of his party members to watch his back. GCN asks Sungwoo if he can really face this monster by himself, as the recommended level to fight it is at 27. Sungwoo says that it is fine, and he will find it out pretty soon if he can defeat it or not. Sungwoo leaves the Hellhounds to GCN and the Death Knight as they will be able to handle them with ease. Sungwoo is thinking that he needs to find a different way to deal with this fire giant as he cannot damage it using normal attacks. His entire body is covered with flames and the skeletons will easily melt after coming in contact with it. As long as it maintains its form, its head is probably its weak point, but it is positioned too high for a direct attack. Sungwoo is thinking that maybe he should give his new skill a try, and he summons the Deadly Clouds. The whole sky gets covered with dark purple poisonous clouds. Sungwoo doubts the poison will work on the ball of fire, but the important thing here isn't the poison, but the raindrops. The rain starts pouring and the giant puts his hand up to save his head from getting wet, indicating that the poison rain is working on him. The fire giant firmly breaks a big piece of a building. He then hurls it towards Sungwoo with full force after covering it in fire. Without wasting any time, Sungwoo summons his skeleton warriors and he equips them with his battle gear production skill. The giant rock smashes into the skeleton warriors formation, which ends in a big explosion. The impact was so huge that even Jisoo-yun and the Death Knight got caught up in its aftershock. Some raindrops fell on the head of the fire giant and he's showing signs of worry. Sungwoo is thinking that his guess was right, as the head of the fire giant is his weakness and he needs to target it next time. In a desperate attempt, the fire giant tries to attack Sungwoo with a fire palm attack. Sungwoo summons a bone shield and he tries to block the palm attack. Sungwoo cannot die in a fire because his fire resistance alone is on 60%, and his Dragon Hunter title along with his Shadow King's robe provide many buffs against fire-type enemies. The fire giant is in extreme pain because his head is cooled down from the rain, and Sungwoo thinks that it is his chance to strike. Ogre Champion, who was hiding behind the fire giant, rushes toward him. He quickly grabs the fire giant from behind, but the fire giant is heating up again, and Sungwoo needs to do something about it. Sungwoo pulls out his heroic ranked dwarven-made hand cannon. It can load bullets as well just by inserting 10 mana in it. Sungwoo starts shooting the head of the fire giant with his dwarven hand cannon, and the giant starts screaming in pain. Sungwoo orders Raidi to go on ahead as well. Raidi starts hitting his head while Sungwoo keeps on bombarding it with his hand cannon. Some skin on the head of the fire giant breaks off, revealing a fire orb behind it. Sungwoo starts running toward the fire giant and he tells the Ogre Champion to hold on a bit longer. Without wasting any time, Sungwoo grabs the orb from the fire giant's head. Sungwoo pulls out the fire orb with all of his force, which results in the death of the fire giant, and he receives 2,800,000 gold for defeating it. Hanho comes back to his senses after finding out that Sungwoo defeated the fire giant, and the Death Knight asks Hanho about how long is he planning on clinging to him. The survivors look out from their buildings and they become happy after finding out that the Necromancer saved them. Sungwoo forgot to ask something else, so he contacts Jeon. Sungwoo asks her about any weakness of the fire giant, and Jeon tells him that he needs to destroy the core that's inside the head of the fire giant, and she warns Sungwoo by saying that fire giant is a tricky opponent, and even Han Kang-suk is having trouble while dealing with it. Sungwoo tells her that he already knows about this weakness, and Jeon asks him about how he already knew. Sungwoo tells her that he already opened up his head and pulled out a fire orb. After hearing it, Jeon tells Kang-suk about this huge problem, and Sungwoo can hear her as well. He's thinking that maybe she's worried about his bet with Kang-suk, and winning it can be possible if he can continue on this pace. Plus, he was just able to get his hands on a premium item like this. This fire orb is a heroic ranked material called Life Force of Fire. It contains a strong power of fire that does not exist in the real world, and if certain conditions are met, he may be able to control this fire with mana. According to his crafting experience, it should be a good material, but the real problem is a tattoo that appeared on his arm. Its description says that it is imprinted by the demons of hell. The demons of this land will be able to track him, and this curse will be lifted once the boss monster, Hell's Moving Armor, is defeated. Sungwoo was not planning on avoiding it either, and even if they can track him, he can use it the other way around. He can fight them at a location of his own choosing and tells his party that it is time to make a nice, fun trap. Sungwoo brings over all survivors with him and they head over to a school. They make big holes in the school field, and it is a good place because this place doesn't have a lot of things to burn, and its wide space provides the best place to fight. A survivor informs Sungwoo that they brought over all fire extinguishers from close by buildings as he requested. They are all alive thanks to Sungwoo, and they were on their way to Yeongdongpo after hearing about the union, but they had no idea that hell would break loose on them. Sungwoo tells them they have a higher chance of survival if they deal with these fire bastards right here rather than recklessly heading up north. The survivor further informs him that they buried the monster dead bodies all around the field as he requested, and Sungwoo compliments them by saying that it will help him a lot during this fight. Hanho says that they should hide now that the traps are all ready, but before he can complete his sentence, he hears a huge lightning zap sound. Hanho is wondering about how can the lightning occur while the sky is fully clear. He asks others if they heard it as well or if he's the only one whose ears are ringing. But before he can say anything else, a big cloud appears out of nowhere and lightning strikes come out of it. In just a few seconds, the clouds start emitting huge lightning bolts on the ground. Everyone becomes a bit anxious, and Sungwoo knows about the place where these lightning clouds are coming from. These clouds are coming from Ansun. It's the place where Han Kang-suk went to deal with the Hell's Moving Armor, but he has no idea if this lightning is related to Kang-suk or the boss skill. They don't have much time to ponder as Jiseon informs them that the Hell's Moving Armor is here. Sungwoo tells the survivors to get inside the building, and they start moving without wasting any time. The Hell's Moving Armor is emitting a special type of heat which can be felt from a long distance. Sungwoo is thinking that this heat wave is tremendous, and the air around it is completely different from the fire giant. He has no choice but to be the bait himself, since he's the only one with high fire resistance. Everything on Sungwoo's end is ready, and he shouts at Hell's Moving Armor and the Hellhounds surrounding it to come and get him.